The Garden of Stars. The story of a girl's faith in God. In a small, sunlit town nestled between rolling hills and a shimmering river, there lived a girl named Clara. Clara had beautiful hair that danced in the wind and bright, curious eyes that sparkled like stars. She was known for her cheerful spirit and an unwavering faith in God, a faith that often baffled the adults around her. Every Sunday, Clara would sit in the front row of St. Mary's Church, her hands clasped together, whispering fervent prayers. She loved the sound of hymns reverberating through the wooden pews and the scent of fresh flowers that decorated the altar. But more than anything, she loved the stories her grandmother told her about the power of faith. One sunny afternoon, while wandering through the town square, Clara noticed an elderly woman sitting alone on a bench, her face lined with worry. The woman clutched a tattered bag filled with handwritten letters. Intrigued, Clara approached her. "Hello, ma'am. Why do you look so sad?" Clara asked, her eyes wide with concern. The woman looked up, surprised by the girl's earnestness. "Oh dear. I've lost my husband. He was my everything, and now I'm alone. I'm trying to send letters to the family, but I don't have enough money for stamps." Clara's heart ached for the woman. She remembered the stories her grandmother had told her about helping others. "I can help you," she exclaimed. "I'll pray for your husband, and we can find a way to send your letters together." The woman's eyes softened, but she shook her head gently. "Sweet child, it's very kind of you, but how can a little girl like you help with something so big?" "Because I have faith," Clara declared, her voice bright with conviction. "And I believe that God will help us." With that, Clara took the woman's hand and led her to the nearby park, where a beautiful garden flourished. It was Clara's favorite place, filled with vibrant flowers and the hum of bees, a sanctuary that felt alive with God's presence. As they sat on a weathered bench surrounded by blooming daisies, Clara closed her eyes. "Let's pray," she said. "Dear God, please help this lovely lady find peace and send her letters to her family." The woman watched, bewildered but touched, as Clara prayed with a sincerity that seemed to wrap the garden in warmth. When she opened her eyes, she noticed something unusual. A faint shimmer hung in the air, like sunlight filtering through a prism. "Did you see that?" Clara whispered, pointing. The woman followed her gaze but saw nothing unusual. "Maybe it was just the light, dear," she replied, her heart still heavy. But Clara smiled brightly. "No, I think it was a sign. God is listening." She stood up, determination blooming in her chest. "Let's find a way to send those letters." Over the next few days, Clara and the woman, who introduced herself as Mrs. Ellis, met in the garden to brainstorm. They talked about all the ways they could gather money for stamps. Clara suggested they sell cookies, while Mrs. Ellis thought of hosting a tea party. The townsfolk, curious about the unlikely duo, began to take notice. Clara, with her infectious enthusiasm, rallied the neighborhood children to bake cookies, while Mrs. Ellis shared stories of her husband's adventures, drawing in adults who were eager to help. On the day of the bake sale, the air was filled with the sweet scent of cookies and laughter. Clara stood proudly behind a makeshift table, her eyes shining as she handed out treats. The community came together, all because of the girl's faith. By the end of the day, they had raised enough money to buy stamps not just for Mrs. Ellis's letters but also for the letters of several others in need. Clara felt a warm glow in her heart, knowing that they had spread kindness through their efforts. Mrs. Ellis, tears glistening in her eyes, hugged Clara tightly. "You have a gift, my dear. Your faith has brought us all together. Thank you for believing." Just then, as if answering their shared joy, a gentle breeze rustled the leaves overhead, and Clara looked up at the sky, which was painted with hues of pink and orange as the sun began to set. "Look," she exclaimed, pointing. "The stars are coming out." Mrs. Ellis gazed up, and to her astonishment, twinkling stars began to appear, dancing in the dusk. "It's beautiful," she breathed. Clara grinned. "I think it's a sign that God is smiling down on us." Thank you for listening. Clara's story reminds us that even the smallest acts of kindness, guided by faith, can light up the darkest moments. No matter what challenges you face, remember that faith and love have the power to create hope and bring people together. May this story inspire you to believe in the goodness within yourself and others.